The clock struck precisely 12 o'clock tonight, its tick a hollow metronome against the walls of my apartment. I traced the faded blueprint beneath my hands, the last proof I'd managed to salvage before the storm, and wondered if my fingers still trembled. Still, they always did. The boy who handed me that sketchbook, his eyes dark as oil paint under the kitchen's fluorescent glare, said, "Future, it's time you learned how to build." I hadn't realized yet. My dreams had been coiled tight since we were 12, a child's gazing at a smartphone screen, a flicker of light in a world that valued screens over creativity. Now, standing in the quiet, I felt less like a survivor and more like a ghost with a ghost story. The family's laughter had been my only solace once, a sound that clung like dust. "Futile fantasies," my sister had sighed, flicking a nail at my shoulder. "What does a blockchain do?" Asterisk, I'd replies, "You build something." They'd shrugged now, their words softening into polite reproaches, their pride a stone dropped into a lake of silence. But here I am 12 years later and the water had receded too much. For what? The name, the scandal, their reputation, once their greatest asset, now their most scorn. I stood before the mirror, my reflection a stranger. The face there bore the scars of my childhood, a mix of defiance and weariness. My fingers unclenched, then tightened around the device. This asterisk was the climax. They'd told me success would ruin them, prove them wrong. Then they'd dismiss it again. They'd said blockchain would fail, asterisk would crumble. "Impossible," my family had whispered, their laughter brittle now. "No one invests in this." But I wasn't whispering truth here. The truth was etched into the screen I'd created, transparency woven into audits, unseen but vital. My work had exposed a rot no one else could trust. The world saw me as a failure, a fraud. I needed to see it, see it. The afternoon came. Sunlight slanted through windows, pooling in the dusty living room where she'd hosted gatherings when my dreams were whispers. Her name was Mara, her face a map of pride and restraint. She'd invited me to stay, her hands clasped with certainty, as if holding back another collapse. I entered, the weight of her silence pressing against the doorframe. The living room felt hollow, a stage where I'd performed a script I'd written in frustration. I thought of her brother's laughter, of the bills they incurred, of the time I'd scrubbed floors until my hands bled. Then, a silence deafening. Her mother stepped forward first, shoulders rigid with frustration. "You think you don't know that you're some imposter twisting everything to prove you're right," the words coiled like vines around her. I saw the flicker of fear in her father's eyes, a flicker of recognition I'd dismissed before, and then he said it. "You call us a liar again," her voice cracked raw, "but you're the one who built this." They pulled her out. The room was dark except for the hallway glow. Her hands were trembling, but her grip on the mirror was certain. On the other side of the room they saw the old girl, the one who'd painted small canvases of her mother's hands, the ones Mara had called delicately inaccurate. Now they knew her true art, a kaleidoscope of scars and stars, threshold glinted in those reflections. "What are you building here?" she pressed, each word a hammer strike. "This is everything failing, what if they see?" Time folded like origami. I stepped into the night. The weight wasn't just guilt or doubt anymore. It hung in the air, a physical force. Then silence stretched. Finally something shifted. Mara's hand hovered near the exit, her gaze unblinking. She turned away, vanishing like a shadow, not with anger but with a quiet understanding. The revelation they'd missed, that my failure hadn't been a defeat but proof these walls were still my home, proof that legacy isn't born from vindication. They walked back and I followed. The front door led me into classrooms where children scribbled equations into journals, to neighborhoods rebuilding centers where mine once stood. Each step felt like uncovering a buried truth. And when I looked back, the man who'd shamed me now held my child's hand, wide-eyed, terrified yet proud. "You didn't fail," he said, whispering. "You changed something." Years blurred, the doubts dissolved into context. The shame became a compass. That night I returned home. My father, still grumpy, muttered about cost but left no note. My sister's eyes softened when she saw the truth. Our family's legacy wasn't in my pedigree but in the bridges we'd forged. We rebuilt together, businesses funded by public investment, ecosystems revived, communities transformed by their transparency. I'd never been a painter, never a game dev, never a justice-seeking technologist to the world. Yet here I was, tending gardens that sustained the land they'd call struggling or failed. The old mockery faded, replaced by gratitude. Children arrived, clutching my notes from youth, proof of what had been lost and restored. The final walk back home was a blur of footsteps. I paused beside a one-stark tree where my father's childhood marker stood. I knelt, touching the soil, and saw the mark where I'd first failed, now overgrown. A breeze stirred it, a nod. Not celebration, but acknowledgement. At last, I heard a voice, Mara, the mother, kneeling beside the family member who'd once dismissed it. Her eyes held centuries of grief, yet a flicker of relief, maybe, or resignation. The roots there intertwined with those on my side. That moment crystallized the karma, progress, not as a tidy finish but a chain breaking. The weight of expectation dissolved like sand through fingertips. My family wasn't the problem. The system was, but theirs was still within reach. Years later, at the annual industry gala, I watched Mara speak first, not as a speaker but as a witness. They'd given up their pride to understand, now they chose reciprocity. Their applause wasn't applause for victory but for recognition, a different kind of applause. In the following days, news spread, local woman rediscovers roots, not a grand event but quiet. People began returning old friends, reconnecting in unexpected ways. And in the back row of the town hall, a child's drawing of a child building things, not painting a child but a blueprint. The child had scribbled a question, asterisk, why did everyone deny my ideas, asterisk, which now seemed relevant. I still keep that device in my pocket. When doubt creeps back, I hold it, a tactile counterweight. It doesn't erase the scars but reminds me of strength forged in the fire. They called my dream ridiculous, a word that's now half ignited into purpose. The path was long, the family's scorn sharp, but the triumph is real. They never wrote it, but they shaped it. In every transaction, in every trust restored, every seed buried, the world doesn't care about what they thought they'd lose. It's their turn to see what they once had. And in my presence, even now, there's a fullness, a quiet certainty that the seeds they dismissed are now nourishing forests yet to bloom.